Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu salam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Halid salam wa bikum, our brothers and sisters, wherever you may be. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, lil ikhwani ikhwati fi Afrika, Europa, wa America, Caribbean, wa kulli makan. Anjarama, my brothers and sisters among the Fulani community. And today I'm going to break from some of the gory details of the last couple of weeks of the injustices and wholesale murder of Muslims and Fulani in particular. And I'm going to talk more on the Islamic point of view in this particular talk. And I'm going to concentrate on the Fulani Herdsmen, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about this vital community that provides a lot of things to a great majority of the continent. And as you know, we've taken a bad rap, and many people don't understand who the Fulani Herdsmen are. And the Fulani Herdsmen can be a whole range of people. They can become presidents. They can be outstanding businessmen and statesmen. They can be traditionalists who spends most of his life herding and tending to cattle. They can be scholars. They can be bankers. They can be a whole slew of things in this worldly life. Not all of the herdsmen are gun-toting Mujahideen soldiers or bandits. And the Fulani community is diverse. You have some herdsmen who are actually farmers as well. So it's a very mixed community. And the Fulani herdsman story has not really come out. And the narrative that's been drawn about us is coming from basically those who do not understand us. And I want to start off by this open letter that was drafted about a year ago from one Fulani herdsman. And this is in Nigeria. And there was, as you know, there's ongoing conflicts between the Fulani herdsmen, in particular, the Yoruba, the Tiv, Hausa, and the Igbo people. And there's a lot of disputes going back and forth and so forth and so on. Well, you know, I've been discussing this for the last couple of weeks, so you know what has been happening in this regard. And what is so touching about this letter, he shows us the art of Fulaku, which is and also is Islamic, which deals with the attitudes and the behavior of respecting oneself and others, respecting elders, and so forth. And here he felt necessary to draft this letter, and it's a beautiful letter. I'm going to read some of the excerpts to it, and I'm going to get into more the Islamic point of view. He says, "Dear Yoruba people, the love of human feeling I have for you pushed me to write this letter because I know what it takes to be a farmer. I have experienced laboring debts farmers are going through to have large investment in their farms. I can understand the feeling when Fulani cattle eat up their grains. As we've been talking for weeks, these things happen, and it's causing conflict and murder when our brothers cattle goes and eat up the crops, and that man loses his livelihood. But I want you guys to understand one thing: majority of Fulani are not like that. We have the human feeling like you do. Most of the northerners, talking about northern Nigerians, thumbs down the killing of farmers and the innocent people in your region. If you are angry, then you are already doing, I don't blame you. But one thing you are getting wrong is that nobody has the right to chase away his fellow Nigerian in Nigeria. Because now there's a call for the Nigerians to run out every Fulani, irrespective of what he has done or what he has not done. If you Fulani, there's now calls for people to banish the Fulani from Nigeria in particular, basically from the Sahel region. I would advise you to be peaceful with us. I know the government can't continue toying with the insecurity like this. Things will be already sooner than we think. Yoruba people are our best friend after Hausa. We have been living together for like 200 years ago, even before Nigeria started. Majority of the Yoruba have Fulani blood in their veins, and vice versa. This is very, very wise letter that he's writing. I am happy the government has banned open grazing in your region, according to the news. I heard some days ago. I don't support it for once, too, because it's uncivilized to living in the 17th century like in the 21st century. There are a lot of Yoruba people in our land. We love them. We accommodate them peacefully. Can you ever think? Let's allow the unity to grow between, because that's the only thing we lack. This is a letter from a Fulani herdsman who wants peace among his brothers. And he's saying that all Fulani are not, criminals and quote unquote terrorists. And he's talking about he doesn't side with those who allow their cattle to eat up the crops of their Yoruba brother farmers. He's disagreeing to that. So when we talk again about the Fulani herdsman, as you heard me say, he can be a businessman on your right and a politician on your right. He can be a president, prime minister of a country and still be a herdsman. Or he can be a young man who spends his livelihood, his time traveling, navigating the savannah region, sending his cattle to and from grazing areas. This is his life. So there's a spectrum of life of the Fulani. He can be Islamic scholars. They can be intellectuals. They are fathers, their mother, their fathers, their sons, their husbands, their neighbors. They're like everyone else. And so I give you this because I want to put a human aspect to all the fighting that's happening in the Sahel region. Because what is lost in this is that the human aspect of the Fulani. And you've heard me talk about the aspects of the Fulani and their jihad now and what has happened, why they are called to this. And the exact opposite of this is another letter that was drafted almost nearly the same, it's a couple of years back. And this Nigerian brother said the Fulani herdsman as Nigeria's new devil term. When the term of Fulani herdsman is hoisted upon any Fulani person, he's using it as a weapon to mean he's a terrorist, he's Al-Qaeda, or he's ISIS. And this brother here is writing basically to talk about the narrative that the media has drawn to make every Fulani herdsman into a mass murderer. and that they are people who are uneducated and so forth and so on. And he also goes on to say here that they should be basically banned and thrown out of Nigeria, and whatnot. And he said that there should be declaring war against them because they have declared war on everyone else. So we have two spectrums of the letter. Again, we have a brother who sees them as criminals. He doesn't make a distinction between the president, the ex-president, and the president now. Both are Fulani. But he's calling the ex-president of Nigeria and the current president of Nigeria a terrorist. And he says that they are no different than Boko Haram. So we have those aspects, and why I'm here talking about this today, to put a human aspect to this, but also the aspect, the Islamic aspect of it. Because what does the Fulani herdsman see? What is he looking at when he's traveling, when he's traversing across the Sahel? What does he see in the landscape? How about the Mujahideen? They have now decided that they need to have emirates, or one emirate in particular. And so what do they look at, and why are they after the governments? And I'm going to get into that Islamically for a change, to talk about this, because what the Mujahideen are saying and what they see. Because we need to hear both sides. You heard this government official here talking about, in Nigeria, talking about the Fulani are nothing but terrorists. And he said they're indistinguishable between Boko Haram. So that means the president here and our esteemed statesman is a terrorist as well. Basically, this is what he's saying. So what is it that our herdsmen are seeing in our officials? And I'm going to go to something. I'm going to start off here. I gave a class on this about a year ago. And our most devout Islamic brothers among the herdsmen see things that a lot of people are not looking at. And what angers them, because they're using the laws of others to govern them and to make injustice upon them. And so when they have pushed the Fulani herdsmen, taking their grazing land, taking their cattle from them, and then, yes, one man and his cattle, he's criminal in his actions. He lets his cattle go graze on a farmer when he sleep. It's 10, 11 o'clock at night, he sleep. So the one herdsman, rogue, has gone rogue. So he sent his cattle through at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night to eat the man's crops. This causes a big, big stir. But as the Fulani herdsmen see the reaction from the police, he see reaction from the officials, he see the reaction coming from high office. And he sits and he looks and see who he's aligned himself with. Look at number 3, not regarding the Mushrikeen as Kafirin and doubting that they are Kafirin. Brothers and sisters, this is one of the biggest things that you see that's going on now in the Sahel and across Africa, period. We see Muslims in particular who have now got to the point where they regard the disbelievers as not disbelievers, but friends and protectors. And they see this relationship. This is the Wagner chief, and this is the new junta leader there in Mali. They see these type of unions. And this man here goes after the Fulani herdsmen. And it's not his beef, because the Fulani herdsmen are not eating his farmlands in Siberia or in in Belarus or in Russia or in Moscow. He's not doing that. He's not traversing across the lands of Russia. So he looks at this and say, why is this man here? Why is this Russian here to fight me? I'm in my homeland. Then he sees this black brother in line in cahoots with him. And so the Fulani herdsman looks now and says, well, what is our brother doing? Don't he know that this man who's killing my people is a disbeliever? Why are you taking him as a protector? And why are you bringing him into our country when this fight is not with him? We're not in Russia. We're not in Belarus. We're not in Ukraine. We're not in, our cattle's not going traversing any parts of Europe. So why are these people here in our homeland? This is what the Fulani herdsman is looking at. This is what the Fulani herdsman is seeing. Oh, excuse me. I don't want to I'll get to that one in a minute. I want to go back to the, where you at here? Where are you at? Where are you at? Yeah, here we go. So the devout Muslim understands that the nullifiers of Islam is what we see today with many of our officials. They're not regarding the Mujahideen as kafirin and doubting that they are disbelievers. They have doubt. Then here's the other part, brothers and sisters, that is very upsetting. Our Fulani herdsmen, who are devout Muslims, they're scholars, they're intellectuals. They read the Quran daily. They pray. They're devout. They love their Lord. They love the Muslims. They love the Ummah. They don't believe that any governance other than Allah. So they don't understand why those who are governing over them are allowing these people here to hurt them and to kill them when they're disbelievers. See, they don't understand that. And then when they see our brother here, who's a Muslim ruler, the new ruler, like in Mali here, call for democratic ways and means over Sharia law. And that's the Nawakit. We all know that. 4, the belief that some other teachings or judgment is better than the prophets. Peace be upon him. Teaching or judgments. Accepting the ruling from other than what Subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. Democratic ways and means is not from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not from the Torah. It's not from the teachings of Jesus, alayhi salatu wasalam. It's not from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's from their own governance. Democratic ways and means has their roots in Europe. They have nothing to do with Africa. So why are our African leaders and Muslim leaders in particular saying this governance is better? This is in Nawakit who believe this. The Fulani herdsman knows that. He's a devout Muslim. He see these guys coming after him, these disbelievers. He hear those who are supposed to be his brother in Islam talking about the teachings of the Tuba, the European, saying that this judgment is what they will use to govern the land. And so this causes him from his eyes to look and say, what's going on? Why are they doing this? So then we look at something here, not this verse. I'm going to get to, excuse me, not this verse. I want to get to another verse here. Verse Surah 40, Surah 4, verse 141. I gave also a test here about this because it's very important. If you look at the last of this, and he talks about, Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the judgment. But you see here at the last, he says, Allah will never grant the disbelievers a way over the believers. When our leaders are using the ways of disbelievers upon them, Subhanahu wa ta'ala is never going to give them victory. This is why we have so much strife, because our Muslim leaders and those who govern over us are not using Sharia Allah. They're using the way of disbelievers on them. And then they're trying to fight you to bring you to this. This is what's causing majority of the jihad. So when the brothers who have been quiet, yes, they see the governance is not good, but suddenly they begin to see the Tubab and other Tubab from America and so forth come into their lands to kill them. And they see their leaders governing from something other than that. They ask, what are you doing? So I'm giving you the perspective of what the Fulani Herdsman is looking at. The devout Muslim, the Mujahid, who prays every day, who reads the Quran, who understands a lot of the Sharia Allah. And last week, I'll give you the English version of this first. Last week, I talked about this, and I was making a correlation between what's happening today by saying, to show you with Subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knows the human being very well. And you see what he says here. Oh, you believe, whoever should revert from his religion. We see that because we see our leaders not using his laws. We see leaders going away from the partnership with other Muslims and believers and partnership with disbelievers. He says Subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring forth in place of them people who will love and who will love him, who are humble towards believers, powerful against disbelievers. They strive in the cause of Allah and do not fear the blame of critic. Let me translate that part of it. These ones who come in jihad are those who, I see, they got me. Oh boy, here, yes, sir. I see what they got here. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. They see the, how can I say, the person who is a disbeliever and that he talks against you because you believe in Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, Subhanahu wa ta'ala says these people don't care what you call them, terrorists. You call them many different names. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother King. Ya Rabb Alameen. I've had this problem before, and I don't know basically how to get out of this. Okay, let me get out of this. And I think I have to get out of it and then go back in it. I don't know, I had issues all day like this, brothers and sisters. And I know that my enemies are behind this. They go into my computer and then they change things around to lock the camera so I can't. They're doing many different things and whatnot. Let me see here. Let me see settings. No. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. So that verse is very important, brothers and sisters, and sorry for the interruption here, because Subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about those who are leaving the faith. He's going to bring people forward who's going to fight for the faith. Irrespective of what the critics call them, they're going to fight, and they're going not to fight, but they're going to struggle and make sure that Subhanahu wa ta'ala's name remains supreme in the land and remains those whose laws are supreme through the land. This is what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is basically talking about. So when he's talking about this, that the favor of Allah, he bestows upon who he wills, and so forth and so on. So this is a issue again with our Fulani herdsman. He's looking at this. He see the officials who walked away from their religion. He see those policemen who are Muslims. He see them running away from their religion. And now what we see through the Sahel region, we see a variety of different people, who are, some are criminals, some are bandits, some are just miscreants, and so forth and so on. But then we have those who are fighting for the cause of Subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he's talking about here. And so the Islamic part, I'm talking about these. I'm not talking about the miscreant or the criminal who does not understand the law of Allah, but the Mujahideen who are fighting in the cause of Subhanahu wa ta'ala understands this verse very well, because he sees this. What is the Fulani herdsman? Who's a Mujahid? He sees this. He knows Subhanahu wa ta'ala might have bestowed upon him and maybe his brothers this task. We do not know, but we have to ask the question, because we see all through the Sahel, and we see in 25 states, we see the same formula. And just about every 25 state, there's a Fulani element in it, even all the way down to Mozambique. And this is why this is so important, because to give you, Subhanahu wa ta'ala said, okay, you Muslim, okay, you want to fight against your brother, and you want to turn your back on your religion, I'll send others forward. This is what he's done. And if you notice, even the Wagner people who are there now, who I was talking about, this chief here, his spokesman even said that they do not have a handle, and all the statistics and intelligence suggest they do not have a handle. Matter of fact, I know, because 3/4 of Mali today, as we understand it, is being controlled by some Mujahideen group. So this is why that's important. And when you look at this in the standpoint of what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, now you have to ask the question. And also, the Fulani herdsman, scholar, imam, mujahid, who reads the Quran, who makes tahajjud every night before Fajr prayer. He gets up 1 hour, 2 hours before Fajr prayer, and he studies, or he makes prayer out there. He's out with his cattle, but he's making prayer. We call it tahajjud. And then we have what we see here. We have, oh, you believers, take never Jews nor Christians as guardians. They're guardians of each other. We know this. Whoever does will be counted as one of them. The Fulani herdsman knows this. He see this man who's taking this, our brother to the left is taking this man as a friend and protector. He's brought them in to kill the Fulani and the Afro-Arabs and the Tuareg. He's taken him as a friend and protector. What is Subhanahu wa ta'ala says about that? He says that you are among them. If you took them as friends and protectors, you are among them. This is a form of a nullifier of your Islam. This is what the Fulani herdsman is seeing, because he's a devout Muslim. Again, we're not talking about the uneducated, uncouth herdsman who's a bandit, or he's a brigand, or he's a muharaba. We're not talking about those. We're talking about those who are actually fighting in the cause of Allah, and many of them are in Mali, as we know today. Many of them in Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger, they're fighting fi sabi Allah Ta'ala. We know they are. See, but maybe not inside Nigeria per se. There are some. We know that they have some groups, but we know that, like the Messina group, we understand it, and there's other militias who are smaller in nature, but they are fighting in the cause of subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they see that the governance, as you heard me talk about, and as I showed you here, they've been governed by governance other than what subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealed. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not take them as your friends and guardians. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. He didn't say for you to do this. And if you do this, like I showed you here, he's saying that you are among them. Verse 142, Surah 4, verse 144. This is the other one that we have. We see leaders. You see the leaders today, Muslim leaders, especially in the Sahel region, you see them talking something Islamic one day. The next day, they're not talking Islamic. They're away from Islam. They go back and forth, back and forth. The Fulani Herdsman is saying, he looks at this. He said, this is a nullifier. Subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say for them to do this. And subhanahu wa ta'ala knows them well. He says, torn between belief and disbelief. This is what we have many government officials today, many who are like this. They're in between. They go, ila ola, wala ola. See what it says in Arabic here. They go from one side, they go to the other. One day they believe, next day disbelief. We see this. We have even Muslim officials who do not even praise subhanahu wa ta'ala in their talks. They don't say anything about subhanahu wa ta'ala in their talks. They just start to talk. They talk and you don't even know that they're actually Muslims. You have to ask questions. You have to ask other people, are these people Muslims? And then one day you will hear him talking about the sunnah of our Prophet, alayhi salam. Then suddenly you start talking about, he's talking about the governance of democratic ways and means. So he's going from belief to disbelief. Belief, disbelief. This is what this means here. And again, don't take them as friends and guardians. We cannot do that. But we have that. And on top of that, brothers and sisters, the friends to our Muslim leaders are killing Muslims, are killing fellow Africans in behalf of another black man. And they're taking these guys as protectors, as I told you before. Subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't authorize such a thing. He's against it, and he's talked about it in the Quran for us as a warning to tell us that you do this, you are among these people. So we have to look at that, and we have to be very careful, brothers and sisters. Torn between belief and disbelief. So the Fulani Herdsman is he's going across the savannah region. He reads his Quran. He sees the environment around him. He doesn't understand why his fellow Muslims are using governance that has not been revealed by Allah. He doesn't understand why when he listens to the leaders who's supposed to be governing them to give them example, they're going from belief. One day you see them as Muslims, Tuesday you hear them talk about something else as disbelievers. So they're going back and forth. Subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't authorize that, brothers and sisters. He did not authorize that. And again, he never told us to take. Now, brothers and sisters, let me preface this because I want someone, because when I gave this class, I know a lot of times are disbelievers, but many people who don't understand Islam use verses like this to say, well, this gives the right of the Fulani Herdsmen or me or you, anyone else, to kill them outright. That's not true, brothers and sisters, because Surah 60, verse 8, Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, even though they are Christians or Jews or disbelievers, if they're kind with you, you can reciprocate that kindness. There's nothing wrong with that. You go to the Jewish bakery and say he gives every Friday, because he knows this Friday is our holiday. Every Friday, say he calls you over and he brings pastries so we can give it to our families. There's nothing wrong with that. That's kindness. You can reciprocate the kindness on his day, which is on Saturday, and you go back to his bakery and you give him maybe some barbecue meat, or you give him something for his family for his day. There's nothing wrong with that. That's reciprocation. You can do that. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about here. He's saying, no, I don't want you to do this, where you hire people to hurt your brother, to kill your brother, and take them as protectors over the believers. This is what Subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the difference. So I want you to understand that, brothers and sisters. Please understand that very well, because there's a lot of talk about that, and people don't understand this, and they use this verse as a way to trap Muslims and go after Muslims. But again, Surah 60, verse 8, Subhanahu wa ta'ala says you can deal kindly with those who deal kindly with you. We have many friends among the Muslims, and they're not Muslims. So you deal kindly with them, but you don't take them as friends and protectors. That's what he's putting a fine line. Like the Prophet ﷺ said in the Hadith, he said there should be a fire camp in between us. He doesn't mean that you can't have relationships. You can have trade, because the Prophet traded with the Jews. He traded. You can have commerce with disbelievers. You can have treaties with disbelievers. And so I want you to understand that. But this thing, like with what's going on with the Russians and French and the Belgium, they're coming into Africa, they're in the Germans and so forth. So many come in, they kill Africans on behalf of Muslim leaders, and they're taking them as friends and protectors. That's what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says no to that. This is another verse in the Quran. And this verse here tells, obey Allah and obey his messenger and those in authority among you. Now, you should disagree upon anything, then refer to Allah and his messenger. Again, brothers and sisters, what happens with our leaders? Do they confer with their Islamic bodies? No, they do not. When there's dispute, do they go to the ulama, our scholars and our intellectuals? No, they do not. When there's a disagreement, who do they run to? This is what they do. They run to who? The Russians. They run to the Americans. They run to the British. And Subhanahu wa ta'ala is against that. He's against that. He said, you don't do this. This is what the Fulani Herdsmen see. This is what angers him, is causing him to go to jihad, because these ones on the right, the Russians and others, are coming into the land. They're fighting us for no reason, because we're not attacking them. We're not attacking the French. We're not attacking the Russians. We're not attacking the Americans. We're not attacking the French or the Irish. We're not hurting in their lands. So why are they here? This is what the Fulani Herdsmen is saying. Why are you here to fight me? This is my homeland. I was born here. I was raised here. My father's fathers have been here. This is our land. Why are you here to fight me? And then he asked his brother on the left, why are you hiring these people? Then when Subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you read the same Quran as I do, why are you hiring these people here to fight me? I'm your brother. If we have a dispute, my dear president, we take it to our scholars, our learned body, and have them to decide, because they will use the Quran and the Sunnah. But our people are not doing that. They run to the Americans, to the Russian, they run to the French, the British, to settle arguments between Muslims. And as you can see, this verse here is against that. This is verse 40. This is Surah 4, verse 49. And our leaders are not doing this. And this is Surah 4, verse 150. Surely those who deny Allah and his messenger and wish to make a distinction between Allah and his messengers. This is what the Fulani Herdsman, who's the devout Muslim, he sees this. So he looks at our leaders. Okay, he looks at our leaders. Okay, he looks at the leaders. And then he turns around and says, okay, he sees what they're doing. And he's asking them, why are they making a distinction between Allah and the Prophet ﷺ? Why are they believing some things and then disbelieving in other things? Why are they using some things of the Sunnah and then disregarding the Sharia law? And then they're using some things to benefit them in the Sharia law, but then discard some things from the Sunnah that don't benefit them. This is what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about in this particular situation here. See? And so Subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the human being very well, especially the enemies to the Muslims and the enemies to him. He knows very well. See? And Subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like that. And he tells you and warns you here, and he gives you this in the Quran. And the Fulani herdsman, the devout Muslim, sees this. Then Subhanahu wa ta'ala makes sure that you understand. Surah 4, verse 51. Look what he says. Those who go back and forth, they use something from Allah and then they discard something from the Sharia, from the Sharia, the Sharia of the Prophet ﷺ. Or they like something in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, but they don't like something in the Sharia Allah. Look what he says here. He said they are indeed true disbelievers. Even if they pray, even if they make song, since they're going back and forth, they're using one thing or another. The Fulani herdsman, he sees this, he knows this, he understands this. Look what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says here. He says in Arabic, Olaika humu kafirun haqqan. They are true disbelievers. This is what he says about somebody like that. Then he goes on. Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, have you, prophet, not seen those who claim they believe in what has been revealed to you? This is our leaders and those who govern over us, who they say that they believe. They say that they believe what was revealed to our prophet and what was revealed before you. They seek the judgment of false judges. You see this. Now, I'm giving you all what I look at and what I surmise and what I heard some things the devout Fulani herdsmen are saying, and some are learned men. They're coming back to talk because our governments do not use our learned men to help them in their decision making against the Fulani herdsmen and about the troubles that's been developed between them and the farmers. And what makes this situation far worse, brothers and sisters, is because our leaders have entered into this agreement here with the Russians in particular to make the situation very strong. And again, the Fulani herdsman who is herding his cattle, he sees suddenly these men, white men, coming with black faces around him, and they come to the village to kill them. See, and so this is something that is upsetting to him, and he doesn't understand why they're doing this. So, and then on top of that, when he sees the leaders, he knows that if you do not use the Sharia Allah, but no, by your Lord, they will never be true believers until they accept you, O Prophet, as the judge in their disputes and find no resistance within themselves against your decision and submit wholeheartedly. Brothers and sisters, I don't care who the ruler is, who the government official is. He is governed by the Quran and the Sunnah, no different than me or you, who are common people. No government official is above us. Yes, he has special covenant with Subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why this Fulani herdsman, he's looking at these officials and he sees them violating all these covenants that Subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them. They're calling for democratic ways and means. When Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, my governance is the best governance. Surah 4, verses 44, 45, 46, 47, Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about if you don't govern by his law, you are a disbeliever, or you are a corrupted person. See, he talks about that. And so, again, Our leaders cannot be true believers if they're calling for democratic ways and means and shunning the Sharia. And he's not bringing in the Sunnah of the Prophet in disputes. They dispute with me, say they disagree with me, and they disagree, and they say, look, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, and I disagree. How do we settle it today? We're settling by what is he doing? He's sending what? He's sending white diplomats to come deal with me who are disbelievers. They're not Muslims. Then they send their army chiefs and their men to come to settle the dispute between me and my brother to the left. And this brother here is a Muslim. So the Fulani herdsman is looking at him and say, brother, why are you sending this man? You're sending this man to come to kill me. I'm your brother. Why don't we settle our argument? We go to the ulama, we go to the fuqaha, we go to the Islamic judges, we go to our intellectuals, and let's talk about our disagreements. Why are you bringing these people here to come? And you know this is from the Nawaqid al-Islam, Ashura. This is a nullifier of Islam. Why are you bringing these people here to fight us? This is what that our Fulani herdsmen are saying all across the Sahel. They're starting to see these white faces who are coming to kill them. 500 over here, 300 here, 30 here, and raping and ravishing our sisters on top of that. You've seen the reports I've been giving. So we go back to again, this these issues. And so they're not using the judgments from the Prophet ﷺ, from his Sunnah, from his Sharia. And this is what is angered the Fulani herdsmen and our scholars on top of that. You notice something, brothers and sisters, and you can count me on this. When you see our leaders have problems like this, they never invite the scholars. Have you noticed that? They never invite our intellectuals. They never invite our intellectuals to come to mediate. They rather jail them. They rather silence them. This is the problem that we have. And so they think that they're pulling something over us. We as devout Muslims, we as Fulani herdsmen, we know this verse very well here. We know that we ask you, our dear brother, the officials, you use the decisions of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sharia of law to govern over us and to solve disputes between us. Don't bring the military, and then you bring these disbelievers to fight us. This is what they're talking about here. This is what the Fulani herdsman is saying, because today is their term. I'm talking in their regards on what they see from their eyes, because nobody talks about them. Our scholars can't talk. Our scholars have tried to mediate the disputes in our nations in the Sahel and many other places. They're not allowed to do it. Our leaders go to the man in the middle here to solve a dispute, and they use the gun. They use the bullet to go after the Fulani herdsmen. And they have no reason for this, because the Quran does not support this. The Sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ doesn't support this. I've given you proof from the words of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So again, our brothers look at our brother here, and he says, my dear brother, why are you seeking the judgment of false judges? Democratic ways of mean is nothing but false judges. If you think that this is not right, you look at America. You look what's happening there, especially to all the black and brown faces. Look at their judgments. Their judgments are not right, because this is not the law of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. It's not from the Torah. It's not from the Sharia Allah. It's not from Jesus alayhi salam. It's not. So he's telling the Fulani herdsman is telling his brothers, his governors, the mayors, the parliament officials, he's telling the prime minister, all stop using the false judgments against them. because they know that these laws that they're using is from Shaitan, the devil. And Subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, all I'm talking today is what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is basically, is what he has said in his book, that we as Muslims are supposed to follow and read and adhere to. And our scholars have been echoing these things by trying to advise our leaders, but they will not listen. They only listen to the Russians and Americans and other whites. They do not listen to our scholars. The Fulani herdsman is trapped because he wants to follow the Sharia. He wants to follow according to what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says. He wants to follow the Polaco. He wants to do all of this. But how can he do this when he is bombarded in his villages on the savannah by seeing white troops, army personnel coming to assassinate him? And he doesn't understand that. So he goes to take up arms to fight because our brother is using the false judges and judgment from the disbelievers against him. And every is wajib, meaning it's a compulsory on every Muslim that he uses the judgment from Allah and his messenger. You don't use the judgments of the Americans. You don't use the judgments of the French or the British or the Chinese or any other disbelieving country. You use the Sharia law. This is what our Fulani herdsmen have been saying. Let me see, we got some comments. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother Marcus. Thank you for showing up, my dear brother. So now, my dear brothers, we're seeing these things, and now I'm giving you the proofs, what our brother is looking at and what our brother's seeing out there in the savannah. Nobody is talking about our Fulani brothers, what is in their eyes. No one talks about what they see, what they feel, and how they see when they are mistreated, they're killed off. And they're reading the Quran every day. They're praying and they're asking for relief. They're asking why their leaders are not following his book. And he reads the passage here. And it says, Subhanahu wa ta'ala shows the hypocrisy of the Muslim rulers a lot. And the government officials. And those who are assigned over them. They believe and then they disbelieve, then they believe and then they disbelieve again. And so Subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing the way. And so how are we supposed to handle that? And again, we have to go back to the same issue. The Fulani herdsman is looking. He's trying to say, well, why is those governing us? Why are they making this distinction again between Allah and our Prophet ﷺ? Why are they using some from the Prophet ﷺ when it benefits them, and then they shunning those from the Sharia? And then when the Sharia benefits them, then they go for that. But then they shun that doesn't go for them in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. See, so these are some of the things. And again, brothers and sisters, you go back to the issue, the devout Muslims, period. Fulani, Hausa, Bambara, or I don't care where they're from. If you're a Muslim, we're all governed by the same rules. There's no special governance from our rulers and those who govern over us, our mayors and so forth and so on. They can use the ways of the disbeliever. I showed you already in the proof here. They cannot use the ways of the disbeliever to govern over you. It's disbelief, bottom line. And we know now that many of our religions now are bringing in so many disbelievers, Tubab in particular. They got to the point now that they don't believe them to be disbelievers in the shade of the Quran. They don't believe them to be disbelievers anymore. They look at them as equal with them. And the Fulani herdsman is sitting there and saying, I don't understand why he's killing me, why he's trying to kill me. And then he goes to meet with them. He sees he is more akin and a kind to the disbelievers than he is to the believers. And then number 4, you hear them when this brother here says, I want the scholars to come to talk to us. And we have Fulani herdsmen are talking this way. They say, I want our scholars to come to discuss the matter with us, but they're not allowed to do it. See, and now he comes to a meeting, he hears a hypocrite Muslim leader tell him in his face that the judgment other than the prophet is better than that of the prophet and better than Allah's judgment. He's listening to that because when you go to him, a Fulani herdsman said, well, look, my father lived under the under the Messina empire. I mean, under the emirate 200 years ago. Say, for instance, my great-great-grandfather, and all this information was passed down. They were telling me that we're not to use any judgment other than Allah. So when you tell this governor that, or this mayor that, or the officials in parliament who are Muslims who come to quote unquote to mediate with you, they don't say that. They say no. They tell you that the teachings and judgment is better than that of the Prophet ﷺ, and that's coming from the Americans. It's coming from the Russians. It's coming from the Germans. It's coming from the British. And number 5, we have Muslims, leaders and rulers and parliament members who are also doing this in the Sahel, hating anything of the prophets. They don't want to dress like Muslims. They don't want to act like Muslims. They don't even say Bismillah. They only say Bismillah Rahman Rahim when they talk in a meeting. When they address the nation, they don't even give this. They don't even give their felicitations to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. They're supposed to do this. They're supposed to do this as a Muslim. But our rulers don't do that. And some who do, only as a smoke screen, because after he says this, you look at what he's saying, and he's using governance other than what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has revealed. See, so this, brothers and sisters, is something I'm giving you the new, talk to get you to understand. When the Muslims are required, remember this, Muslims are required to look at both sides. I'll give you an example what I'm talking about. There's a dispute between a husband and wife. Now, we see this being played out big time in the United States. We see where a wife who has it in for her husband, she's upset with him. So she runs around and she tears him a new one with everybody, neighbors, anybody who talks. Anyone she talks to, she talks against her husband. She's setting it up, and then she calls 911. Her husband doesn't know what's going on. Like that case was happened about 10 years ago. I'll never forget it. It was so heartbreaking. She set him up. She's been fighting him for weeks. She didn't know how to push him under. This is an African-American sister who did this. She didn't know how to control him anymore. See? So she began to go talk against him. Then, when he was up taking a shower and shaving, he heard the door. He did not know she called 911 on him. And when he came out with the razor in his hand, they lit him up. This is why us as Muslims, we listen to both sides of the story. We don't listen only to the woman, and when a woman says something, we want her to prove this, and we want to talk. This is the Sharia Allah. Because you can see today, brothers and sisters, you heard me talk about this today. Why we have a big problem like in the United States. How many, you heard my class I give, how many, and on top of African Americans are leading the way in this paternity fraud. Under the Sharia Allah, you got to prove something. If me as a man make an allegation against my wife in public, I'll get lashes for it unless I prove it, because the innocent is prevail in Sharia law. That's not the democratic ways of mean. It's the exact opposite. Especially if you are black and you Arab or Tuareg or Pakistani or Indian, something like this, they automatically, you are guilty first. See, so but under the Sharia law, that's not the case. So you have to listen to both sides of the story. I'm giving you these analogies because I want you to understand the Fulani herdsmen. Because you should listen to their story. Don't listen only to the hypocrite government officials who you see now. I've exposed all of these. There's many more. All of these verses in the Quran is against them for what they're doing. And so you have to listen to both sides of the story as a Muslim. This is why I'm giving this Islamic talk today, because I want the brothers who are Muslims to go back to the Quran and the Sunnah when we talk about issues like this. And you say, well, you know, I only heard what they said on the Nigerian station. I'm only going to listen to what the governor in this one province of Ghana says. No, you cannot. You can listen to him, but you need to go to the Fulani herdsmen also and listen to their side story. You are Muslim. This is our Sharia. We use our laws. You see what I'm talking about. Subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say to use his laws. And I'll give you this verse again. For those who are late now showing up. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you do not use what? He says this, Allah will never grant the disbelievers a way over believers. You don't use their ways and means on another Muslim. And democratic ways and means is that. Their judgments is their way of trying to put their way over believers. The believer, he believes in Allah and his messenger and his laws. And then you come and try to use the laws of the disbelievers upon him. And this is what we have. And this is what they're using against the Fulani herdsmen. Remember what you heard me talk in my talk here a couple of weeks back. I said about how the Emirates were running, how we had no problem between the farmers and the herders because they were using Sharia law. But when the modern times came, they vacated the Sharia. And now we have modern Muslims who are governors in parliament, who are policemen and so forth and so on. They're using the ways of disbelievers on the believers, and they're using their way on the Fulani herdsmen. And this is wrong. And this is the proof. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, Allah will never grant the disbelievers a way over the believers. So the Fulani herdsman is sitting there. He's going to these men and he says, I want a judgment, but I want the judgment from what you understand of the Sharia law. They won't. They can only give you the judgment from the made up laws that they've made from some constitutional law that's mixed with some from Allah, some from the Torah, and some from the Americans, some from the Russians. This is what they've been doing. And they've tried to put this on you. The Fulani herdsman says, no, I'm not going to tolerate that. And he's correct because he has this. And I'm getting ready to close here. Brothers and sisters, be mindful of this. Because this is Islamic. I'm talking Islamic today. You can fight another Muslim. Now, I'm not talking about if the Muslim, you walking down the street, and the Muslim come to you and he try to take your food, you have a right to fight him. No doubt. If your son is walking to school and some boys come and you see that and you go intervene to stop these boys from stealing your son's cell phone, you can do that. They're Muslims. You still do that. We're not talking about criminal acts. If a Muslim comes and invade you inside your house, you have the right to fight him. What we're talking about is when you use other laws to govern, to be used on another Muslim. And then you try to fight him to bring him from Sharia law. The Fulani herdsman is coming to you saying, okay, you want to fight me, but what are you fighting me about? You come to him and tell him, I'm trying to bring you to the ways and means of the disbelievers. I'm bringing you to the democratic ways and means. No, you cannot do that. This is disbelief. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah will never grant the disbelievers a way over the believers. Never ever use any judgment from disbelievers, another way of governance over another Muslim. I don't care if he's Fulani. I don't care if he's Hausa. I don't care if he's Mende or Mendinka. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference. You don't use these ways and means over another Muslim. And so, again, brothers and sisters, the Fulani herdsmen are all three of these men. All three of these men. And neither one of these men are terrorists. Each one has its own way of life. We have ex-president. We have a traditional a man who takes care of his young man, taking care of his cattle. Then you have a statesman. We have rich Fulani men. We have bankers. We have intellectuals. There's many. They're Fulani herdsmen. They're Fulani herdsmen. They're not criminals. See? So this is why I want to get this talk today, to get you to understand. And we talk Islamically about how we're supposed to judge these brothers. And you cannot judge them until you hear them. So today I'm talking to you what they see. Many of them see. Now, again, those who come late, I'm not talking about the bandits. I'm not talking about the criminals. I'm not talking about those guys like that. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about those, especially like in Mali and Burkina Faso, Niger, who are fighting because the government is fighting them, and they're bringing in the Russians to fight them. See, and the French and the UN and everything else bringing in peacekeeping troops to come to fight them, and they're disbelievers. These guys are fighting them fisabilillah because they want to stop them, because they're using democratic ways and means over them. And Fulani Herdsmen says, no, I don't want to live under democratic ways and means, because this way you can kill me. That's way you can steal my wealth. You can do this to me. And they've been doing it. They use the judgments of the disbelievers against them. They take the grazing land from them. They take their cattle from them. They kill them outright. How many people who have been killing in the last 5 years, Fulani, under democratic ways being are in jail for it? Very few. Have you noticed that, brothers and sisters? How about those who steal their cattle? I gave you the story about what they did here about a year ago. They took 25,000 from many villages of cattle, and they sold these cattle. They were never brought to justice. Those who killed in Mali here 7 months ago, they killed 500. People know who they are. They were not brought to justice. This is under the democratic ways and means. Why you don't use their laws, but they're using these laws against the Fulani herdsmen. And I bring this point to show you that not every Fulani herdsman is a gun-toting criminal. And he's not kidnapping and so forth and so on. Because then you accuse all of us of the same crime. You cannot say that. Because when you say all Fulani herdsmen, you saying the ex-president of Nigeria is a criminal? He's a Fulani herdsman? You saying this esteemed governor and statesman here? This brother here, highly educated, you trying to say he's a criminal? He's a terrorist? He's Fulani herdsman also. How about our young brother here, who only knows the Savannah region? He doesn't hurt anybody. He's not a terrorist. So I wanted to give you this so you, again, as on the Islamic point of view, you have to take your judgment. You judge the government and their forces, what they're doing versus what the Fulani herdsmen are doing. You look at the Fulani herdsmen and listen to this side. Why are you taking up arms in Burkina Faso? Why are you taking up arms in Mali? Why are you taking up arms in Niger? Why are you taking up arms in the Cameroons, in Central African Republic, in Sudan, all over the place? Eritrea, Mozambique. Why are you doing that? You need to ask those questions before you judge them. And I wanted to see here, Africa. Yeah, my dear brother. Salam alaikum, my dear brother. Thank you for showing up. And my dear brother Marcus, he says that switching laws is trickery. Yes, it is. Going back and forth. And this is what many of our officials are doing today. They use the Sharia when it benefits them, but then they use democratic ways of law and mean when it's benefit them. Both laws. But then when one doesn't benefit, say that democratic laws benefit them, they use that. When the Sharia doesn't, then they discard it. And this is what we're talking about here. Brother here says we're all connecting by Sharia no matter where we live. Yes, you said it right, brother. I don't care if you're in Nigeria or if you're here in Fez, Morocco. We're all will be subject to being answered to about the Sharia law. We have no excuses to say we don't have to use that. But we have politicians today say we don't need to use the Sharia law. We use democratic ways. That's wrong. So this is something again, that is that you cannot use that on another man. You cannot. And so, brothers and sisters, today I gave you this talk here, and hoping that you got something out of this today. And I'm hoping that you listen to my words and this Islamic talk. To again, the Muslims are governed by fairness. The Polako, even the behavior of the Fulani, are governed by what? Evenness and fairness. The Muslims, the Sharia law goes by evenness and fairness, and in between, not extreme. See, so how many of us know about the Fulani Herdsmen? We know about them only what the BBC says, what CNN says, and what all of the pundits say against them. But how do you know what they're thinking? Why are they taking up arms? How about them as far as their Islamic faith? I gave you a lot of that today. See, so I wanted to make sure that this is heard, and I'll have another talk again on another topic, but I want to bring this point up Islamically because we should, and it may be mundane again to a lot of people who may not be interested. I understand that, but I have to give this out because I pray and I always ask Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, give me guidance. And as a Muslim, I have to talk about the fairness, and it's not fair. It's just like with me, brothers and sisters. When I step out and people judge me because what the Tuba has told them from the embassy. But then when they come to talk to me, so I asked them, I said, have you ever read Surah Hujurat? He talks about when the evil man comes to you with something against your brother, what are you supposed to do? I say to them, you should go and ask first before you make judgments. See, so this is what I'm talking about. And so I'm doing this today. I'm giving you some of the things of the Fulani Herdsmen. I'm talking to you about what they may be looking at and what they're seeing and what they're feeling, why they're taking up arms. And I've given you Islamic proofs that the governors, the mayors, the parliament members, the other officials who are using other governance over Muslims is wrong. And those who have taken the Europeans as friends and protectors are wrong. It's a nawakit. As you saw me, as I gave that proof today to you as well, to show you again that is a big no-no. It's a nullifier. When you begin to take them as friends and protector and you begin to believe that they are not disbelievers, you begin to believe that they're just like you. And then you believe that their governance and their ways and means, their judgments are better than that of the Prophet ﷺ. I've given you this proof today to show you that they are wrong in what they're doing, and it's a nawakit. It's from the nawakit al-Islam. There's 10 of those. I got this in in English here so people can see this and understand that this is serious business. This is deep Islamic law. When we're talking about here, I gave a class on this about a year ago or so on all 10, talking about these nawakits and so forth and whatnot. And so and there's some other ones here too that like number 9. And this is the other one too, and I will close. Believing that it's permissible for some people to implement they're free from they say, look, man, you know what? I'm in Nigeria. I don't need to implement the Sharia law. I hear this. I'm over here. I'm in this place. I don't need to implement the Sharia law. Now you know that when you hear this type of talk, it's a nawakit. It takes you out of the fold of Islam. And then number 10, we have leaders who never pick up, governors, parliament members, rank and file Muslims never pick up the Quran. And they turn away from the religion and they don't believe they have to learn anything. This is another thing. I'm giving you all the things why the Fulani Herdsman, who's devout Muslims, why he's on and he's hard against the government, why he's hard against the police and security forces, because he knows that the security forces they believe in number 9. They're doing this. They know they're doing number 10. They know that they are number 3. They know that they're doing this as well. They believe this. And number 4, they know that they're using the ways of the the disbelievers over the believers. They know that. They see that, and it's very obvious because they have it, because they see these people coming after them. See, they see these men like this, and there are troops coming after them. So they know. So I give you these proofs today, brothers and sisters, for you to discern. And I'll leave you with that until I have another talk again, inshallah ta'ala. But I wanted to give this Islamic talk. I wanted to give the point of view of the devout Muslim Fulani herdsman, not the criminal, not the bandit, not the brigand, not the muharaba who are making crimes and kidnapping. We're not talking about them. We're talking about those who are actually fighting the government directly because they are taking governance that's other than, and they're having people, disbelievers, come to fight and kill them. I'm talking in their regard to give you their insight on what they look at, because nobody talks about them except for saying bad things about them. Okay, my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, anzarama.